Hey, my friends, we are heading into the holiday season, and it's a time of Thanksgiving, joy, peace, love, and spending time with others. However, for far too many, it is a season of loneliness. And the truth is, most Christians won't admit when they're lonely until pain becomes unbearable, because we've conditioned ourselves to believe that somehow loneliness is a character flaw or maybe a spiritual weakness. But we know that Jesus himself experienced deep, crushing loneliness in Gethsemane, on the cross, even in his ministry when the crowds disappeared. Loneliness is not failure. Loneliness is a human condition that even the Son of God experienced. It's a widespread problem and one that is so often ignored. So let's dig in and talk about this important issue. You might be surprised to find out who is affected by it. Hey, I want to thank you for joining us on this important issue. Loneliness now is not the same as being alone. A person can live alone and feel completely at peace, and yet a person can be surrounded by others and feel deeply isolated. So, we're living in this tension. Those who are lonely are overstimulated but undersupported. They receive texts and notifications and messages, but there's very little meaningful connection. So digital proximity has replaced emotional closeness. Their life stage intensifies isolation. Kids are grown or almost grown. Their friend circles have shrunk. Work relationships feel shallow. Marriage may be strained or routine. Aging parents add stress. They're carrying more weight with fewer people in their inner circle. Churches don't know how to address loneliness. Look, churches are great at gathering people, but not always great at connecting people. Most churches measure attendance, not belonging. Christians rarely say the words, "I'm lonely," because we fear judgment. We fear being seen as spiritually immature, or we fear being the only one who feels this way. But the truth is, most people in the room are fighting the same invisible loneliness. So I want to share 3 reasons that Christians rarely admit that they're lonely. Hopefully this will help us to understand deeper if we're not experiencing that ourselves. So number 1, we interpret loneliness as spiritual failure. Many Christians think, if I trusted God more, I wouldn't feel this way. Or they might think, if my faith were stronger, I wouldn't feel disconnected. Or even, shouldn't Jesus be enough? But God didn't design us to be relationally self-sufficient. Even in Eden, right from the start, a perfect world, no sin, full access to God, and he still said, it is not good for man to be alone. Adam wasn't lonely because he lacked faith. He was lonely because he lacked another human being. Reason number 2, Christians fear vulnerability. Most of us do. Most people don't want to be the first to admit weakness. And the older we get, the more pain we've lived through, the more betrayal or heartbreak we've seen, and the harder it becomes to trust people with our real selves. So we keep conversations at a surface level. How are you? Fine, just busy. And we die on the inside. Reason number 3. The church culture confuses friendliness with community. Friendliness feels like connection, but it's not. A smile on Sunday is not the same as someone showing up on a Wednesday night with dinner because they knew you were discouraged. Many churches today are relationally shallow. They're program heavy or overly polite but emotionally distant. And I'm not picking on any one church. I think that's just a general good statement. You can attend for years, you can know everybody's faces and names, but still never be truly known. Most churches will say, well, that's because you're not getting involved, but nonetheless, it's happening. So what does loneliness actually do to your soul? Well, loneliness isn't just a feeling. This is important. It reshapes your inner world. Loneliness twists your identity. You begin to confuse silence with abandonment. You interpret a lack of support as a lack of worth. And let me tell you, we've talked about this in the past. The enemy loves this. Satan's first attack is almost always identity. Things like, you're alone because you're unlovable. You're forgotten because you don't matter. You're isolated because you're broken. Loneliness creates space for lies to sound like truth. Second, loneliness chips away at hope. It makes you believe things like, it's always going to be this way. No one would ever trust me, or no one understands. Even strong believers, hear me, even strong believers, pastors, leaders, faithful people can lose hope when loneliness stretches into months or years. 3, loneliness often hides behind competence. Some of the loneliest people are the most capable. Think about that. They lead ministries, they raise families, they serve others, they do their jobs with excellence. But because they're competent, nobody checks on them. Nobody asks how they're doing. Nobody assumes they might be hurting too. You can be needed by everyone, but known by no one. Pastors out there who may be watching totally can relate to this. So let's talk about how Jesus responded to lonely people. Jesus didn't ignore lonely people. He pursued them. One example, the woman at the well. Jesus went out of his way, literally miles out of his way, to meet a woman who was avoided by her entire community. He didn't start with their sin either. He started with their story. How about another one that we learned as young children, if you were in church? Zacchaeus. He wasn't just a sinner, he was isolated, rejected, despised. And Jesus didn't say, come follow me. He said, I'm coming to your house today. Jesus started with presence, not pressure. Here's another one. The leper. Look, no one had touched him in years. Before Jesus healed him, Jesus touched him. Physical touch came before the miracle. One of my favorite stories, the disciples in the storm. They thought they were abandoned. Jesus met them in the storm, not after. And Jesus himself experienced deep loneliness. His closest friends fell asleep on him. One betrayed him. One denied him. The rest, they all ran away. On the cross, man, think about this. On the cross he cried, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus knows loneliness from the inside. That's why he's gentle with lonely people. So, how do people heal from loneliness? Both the biblical and the practical. First of all, acknowledge it without shame. Loneliness loses some of its power when it's named. Pretending you're not lonely only prolongs the ache. Number 2, build community intentionally, not accidentally. Adults don't drift into deep relationships. Look, kids make friends naturally. Adults have to do it deliberately. Ask yourself, who could I pursue? Where can I plug in? What can I initiate? A single coffee can change an entire season of life. Number 3, practice the courage of vulnerability. This is a hard one. You don't have to dump your soul out to everyone, but you need one person who truly knows you. And vulnerability is risky, but you know what? Isolation is fatal. Number 4, re-engage with your God-given purpose. Loneliness often shrinks our world. Purpose pushes the walls back out. Serving others is one of the most powerful ways to reconnect with community and break spiritual isolation. Number 5, return to connection with Jesus. But don't use him to avoid relationships. Yes, Jesus is enough, but Jesus himself sought human connection. He built community with imperfect people. He modeled friendship. He ate with others, and he walked with others. Following Jesus means connecting deeply with God and with people. I'm an introvert. I love time alone. I need time alone. But if you're lonely today, let me say this as gently as I can. Loneliness does not mean you're spiritually weak. It doesn't mean that God has abandoned you. And it certainly doesn't mean you are unlovable. What it does mean is you're human. It means your heart is working properly. And it means God is preparing you for deeper relationships with him and with others. Jesus sees you. Jesus is with you, and Jesus draws close to the lonely. You don't have to walk this season alone. If you've been feeling lonely lately, type "pray for me" in the comments. I will pray for you, every single one of you. And I want you to understand that stepping out makes all the difference in the world. Again, we go back to finding someone that you can pursue, someone that you connect with, and carefully dip your toe in the water of vulnerability. Let them know who you really are. We don't have to have this facade. If we're brothers and sisters in Christ, we need to be vulnerable. So don't forget, if you're lonely and you would like some prayer, type "pray for me" in the comments, and I will make sure that I do that. Hey, thank you for watching. As we jump into the holiday season, if you're one of those who are lonely, just know that you're not alone, and know that you don't have to be lonely. God's there for you, and so are others. We just have to make the effort to step out and meet one another. Let's get to know one another and make this holiday season one that's not full of loneliness. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time on Behind the Mic Podcast.